And now we're going to walk through the difference between chat and tasks and just give some guidance on how to think about this. And so these are the two kind of main things that you're going to do when you're getting work done in MAJK. You can see in the home screen there is an explanation that says chat gives you AI assistance, and so you can start a conversation and it can help with various types of things. Whereas tasks are about actually managing tasks, creating tasks, and building pipelines and orchestrating work. You can get to either one of them. You can click on the big button in the home screen, or you can click on the task chat menu. And from here, you just have start chat and start task. Chats are intended to be straightforward. I just need something. So you can just say, how do I connect a system like MAJK to a SQL database? And just hit return, click send, and away you go. And that's just going to go run. And so this is processing the request and is going to go through the thought process. It can do research. It can look at websites and find knowledge bases. And you can also look at your file system. So if you have files you want to attach or screenshots you want to take, then you've got options here. But it's just going to go find stuff for you and give you information. You can also build apps and things with the Amplify chat, so it can be quite powerful. But if you're going to kind of create output, then our recommendation is generally to use a task rather than a chat. Think of chats as discrete things that I just need information, go do my research, go help me find this thing, and then once I've got it, I'm going to close the chat down. So in this case, it's come back with some research, give me some examples. It's given me some ideas for different types of databases and questions to ask and so on. Once you've gone through a chat, then at the end of it, if you want to, you can mark it complete. And if you do that, you can give it a rating. So you click mark complete, give it a rating, you say, yep, this was really good. You can provide some feedback, which then gets recorded. You can then complete the process and you'll get this feedback loop saying, okay, now my teammate is training. What that's doing is it is updating the Amplify chat team member and keeping a record that this was the request, this was what was done, and this was the feedback. It was good, bad, indifferent, and so on. You can also archive tasks. So this one I created as a blank task. If I'm done with that, I can just click archive and it will take the task out of my list. You can also archive once it's finished training, so we're just going to let that run. The second type of activity that you can do in MAJK is a task. When you start a task, so the first time you start a task, it's going to look similar to this. There's nothing, like you've just got your default team member, Magic Rabbit. You've got the team members that you added from your plugins. But Magic Rabbit is a good place to start. You have to provide a task name, my first task, and you have to give it a working folder. And this working folder can be really powerful. So one of the things you should do when you're setting up MAJK for the first time, put some thought into where you want to keep track of your work. And so I recommend you create a dedicated folder. It can be on a shared drive or it can be on your local drive, but it should be a folder that is on your file system where you can categorize and keep track of your work that you want to do in MAJK. And so, for example, you might have a bunch of subfolders that relate to MAJK. And so you see I've got a few different things that I've been working on. Within those subfolders, you might have more folders. So I might call this my task. And now I have a folder just for this task. And so that now becomes my working directory. In my file manager, I can go to that folder, MAJK project, my first task, And I can put stuff here. So I can take documents if I have specifications or research or spreadsheets that I want to analyze or definitions of systems or anything that I want Magic to include in the kind of corpus of knowledge that is being used to run this task, then I can put it in this folder. And once it is in this folder, then it becomes available to Magic because I created the task and pointed it out this folder. So go back to that. Yeah. And so once I create the task, I have the folder. I can put stuff in that folder. I can also create things in this folder. And then it is just a case of me describing what it is I want. So I want to build a system to connect. So I can start with a long prompt or a short prompt, but I'm going to start the process. And when I click send, then I'm going to get into a conversation because this is all natural language driven. And I'm going to create, in this case, a system that's going to connect Magic to a SQL database that I use my CRM. We're going to go through the design process first, and Magic is going to go like help me design this system. As I said, I think in another session, the first time you use Magic, you get prompted for permissions. And so in this case, it's telling me that this is a search skill. And do I want to grant permission just one time? Do I want to do it for this task? So anytime this type of request comes up again within this task, it won't ask me. For this project, which is the folder, this teammate is for Magic Rabbit. So if other teammates get asked, or if I do something with another teammate and that falls into this category, then this permission will flow, or just say always. And so in this case, it's a search. So it's going to go look for stuff. I probably am fine with search because that's read only anyway. So I'm going to say global and I'm going to say allow. And so now, anytime that search skill is requested in any other task, permission has already been granted. And I can go back to my profile in settings and change that if I want to. And so Magic has a custom database service that supports SQL databases. So really it needs information about the database and so on. In this case, I've got a bunch of questions. So I'm going to read those questions. I'm going to reply and add and go through the process of essentially a conversation back and forth. What do I need? What are the questions? Answer the questions, provide the information, and go through the process. I can jumpstart some of this if I've already done research or if I already have requirements in another document, and I can just put that document into this folder and start by reading the document and then actually, kind of get a lot of the requirements out the gate. But this is a back and forth process that you go through anytime you're building something with Magic. And I can have as many tasks running as I want. You can see that once the task is completed, I get a check mark. I'm just going to make this a little bigger so you can see. I can see the rating I gave it. I can archive this chat, which will remove it from the list. You can see there are some filtering options, so I can make this an important task and say it's got a star, and now it will appear in my star tasks list. If I had tasks running, they would appear in the active. I can search and say first, and it's going to highlight my first task and so on. So I can go through all this and manage the view as I need to. But basically, this is how you interact with tasks and chat. The other thing that's worth calling out, once you're in a task, you can look at a whole bunch of information about it. So you can change the visibility of the detail up here on the top right. So you've got different views, detailed, normal, and compact. That changes what's displayed on the screen. So when you have detailed, you have everything with code and full back and forth. When you have normal, then you have this breakdown with some kind of boxes. And when you have compact, you have the least information. From compact, you can still get to that information because you can click on the expansion and you can go through and you can see the code and you can open these up and close them down and so on. So you can still get to it all, but it is a cleaner view when you're on compact view. You'll see that you've got other options here that you can look at within a task. One of those options is to copy the conversation ID if ever you need to connect tasks together. You can also look at statistics about the task. It tells you some information about tokens you've used and what types of tokens and an estimate of the cost of those tokens and then what tools have been used. These tools are the things that are requiring permission. And then you can also look at some configuration options for the task. You can see whether or not this task is using Git to manage branches and version control, and you can change the mode to native execution mode. So there are some more advanced options once you get into tasks. You can also go to the folder. If you just click on this folder, then it will take you straight into it in your file explorer so that you can see and pull any documents that have been created and so on. You can leave this task at any time. You can come back to it later. You can start another task. It doesn't interfere with it. They run in parallel. So, you have lots of options around how you manage your work. And yeah, MAJK will help you as you kind of add more and more tasks to your work history by training and staying up to date and documenting what is done.